Hi everyone, Matthew here at AAWeatherWatch, taking a look at the weather through the course of the coming weekend, obviously Saturday the 7th and Sunday the 8th of October. And it will be a rather typical period of weather through the course of the coming weekend. Quite cloudy and damp weather is forecast, quite typical October weather. Some local regional variations in the weather are forecast, and that creates some uncertainties over the details, with, for example, more northern and western areas likely to see the greatest risk of cloudy and damp conditions, but perhaps with some cloud breaks developing again more locally across parts of the south and east. Now, satellite imagery shows a region of cloud approaching from the west and northwest. That ties back into an area of low pressure situated to the northwest of the country within this region here. And essentially through the remainder of Friday it will become increasingly cloudy after a dry start with some brighter sunny intervals, and eventually some mainly light or moderate rain and drizzle will begin to develop across parts of the north and west. If we just take a look at the latest satellite and rainfall radar imagery, there is some high-level cloud now moving down from the northwest, but that's not stopping some brighter sunny intervals still, especially across parts of the south and east of the country. But you can see on radar now just beginning to move into far western and northwestern areas. There's the increasing risk of some light or moderate rain or drizzle, which will become increasingly widespread across northern and western areas through the rest of the day, and then eventually moving south and eastwards this evening and overnight. So we'll take a look at the forecast weather charts now to put the details onto the forecasts. And through the remainder of the day, again, it is a reasonable day, particularly further south and east you are, but equally the further north and west you are, becoming increasingly cloudy and breezy. A developing southwesterly wind is forecast. So by the time we get to the end of the afternoon, again, mainly lighter and moderate rain or drizzle, becoming increasingly widespread across northern and western areas, and the sunshine further south and east becoming increasingly hazy and eventually becoming mostly cloudy here too. Now into Friday evening and overnight, cloudy and damp weather sinking southwards across many areas. Again, it will also be quite breezy too. A moderate to fresh, locally strong west or southwesterly wind is forecast. So we move through into Saturday morning, and it is quite a cloudy and damp start to the day, particularly perhaps across some southern and southeastern areas of the country, and also perhaps across parts of the north and west. Now through the course of Saturday, and rather cloudy conditions will prevail across many areas. The cloud may just begin to break through the course of the afternoon across some southern and southeastern areas of the country, but especially the further north and west you are, then it will remain quite cloudy, overcast and grey, quite typical October weather, and the clouds certainly possibly thick enough for some further patchy light rain and drizzle, especially across parts of the north and west. This region of precipitation moving into the far southwest of the country, certainly a question mark over this, but there may well be also some rain and drizzle developing across parts of Munster, for example, through the afternoon and into the evening. Now, through the course of Saturday evening and overnight, it is almost a case of spot the difference. Some cloud breaks still possible across southern and southeastern areas of the country, the wet weather across the extreme south and southwest pulling away, and further north and west still rather cloudy with some patchy light rain and drizzle. So again, this highlights some uncertainty over the regional details, certainly quite varied conditions depending on where you are. Now overnight and through into Sunday and otherwise, very little change is forecast. A lot of cloud is forecast to persist, but otherwise through into Sunday, this is the latest forecast chart for around about 9 o'clock on Sunday. There is increasing confidence for potentially something of a drier day on Sunday. Now again, clearly as you can see, the latest forecast weather charts highlights a lot of cloud. This cloud certainly thick enough perhaps for some local light rain or drizzle, but otherwise it is predominantly dry. Through the course of Sunday, and the cloud potentially breaking once again, especially to the east of high ground, so potentially more southern and especially eastern areas of the country, perhaps seeing some brighter intervals, but once again the further north and west you are, the clouds still persistent, still quite extensive, and certainly thick enough for some pockets of light rain or drizzle at times. And essentially we end the weekend with very similar conditions, very little changing overall. The further south and east you are, perhaps some late afternoon or evening brightness, but further north and west you are, then remaining mostly cloudy, if not overcast, with again some patchy light rain and drizzle possible. Let's take a look at the temperatures now through into the coming weekend. The temperatures this afternoon, if anything, will rise, and it will be a particularly mild evening, especially compared with the last couple of days, which have seen some particularly chilly evenings and also some nights too. So temperatures this afternoon and through into the evening rising, perhaps 11, 12, 13 or maybe even 14 degrees by the end of the afternoon and into the evening. Minimum temperatures tonight, again, markedly higher than the last few nights, probably minimum temperatures no lower than 10 or 11 degrees Celsius. Now through into Saturday, and temperatures, if anything, a little higher than they have been of late, probably nearer to the early October average. Highs around about 11 to 16 degrees Celsius, but given the rather cloudy and damp conditions and also breezy conditions, then it will continue to feel quite cool. Through on to Saturday evening and overnight into Sunday, perhaps locally chilly across some central and northern areas, minimum temperatures 6, 7 or 8, but otherwise still temperatures 9, 10 or 11 degrees, especially in towns and cities and around the coast. Now through into Sunday, and otherwise temperatures probably near, again, average for early October, somewhere in the region around about 12 to 15 degrees Celsius, and in any brighter intervals certainly feeling pleasant enough, but otherwise beneath the quite cloudy and damp conditions across more northern and western areas, then feeling quite typically October-like. So finally, summarising that in our weekend weather summary. Looking at Saturday the 7th, it will be a mostly cloudy and damp day across many areas of the country. Patchy rain and drizzle possible almost anywhere, but especially so across more northern and western areas. Perhaps some sheltered eastern areas of the country seeing some brighter intervals, but that will be the exception to what will again be a rather cloudy and damp day. Breezy and quite cool too. Through into Sunday, and overall a drier day compared with Saturday. Perhaps a greater risk of some brighter sunny intervals developing across parts of the south and east. However, especially in the north and west, it will still remain quite cloudy with some patchy rain and drizzle. Overall, Sunday probably a little milder, given lighter winds and a greater risk of some brighter intervals too. So that's all the latest details in our weekend weather summary. As ever, I'll be back with you at the start of next week, focusing on the weather through the course of the coming week. So thanks very much for tuning in, and enjoy your weekend.